Welcome back to another episode of Uncontested Investing. Today we're joined by Danny Linenger, the Director of U.S. Operations at Swidget, a cutting-edge smart home technology company. With over 21 years of experience in the building products industry and more than a decade in the single-family rental space, Danny brings deep expertise in renovations, materials management, and innovative solutions. Known for his leadership, relationships, and integrity, Danny is here to share valuable insights on Swidget's approach to smart home technology and its impact on the real estate industry. Let's dive into the episode. So Danny Linenger, Director of U.S. Operations for Swidget, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today on Uncontested Investing. The first thing I want to start with for you is, I think if there was ever going to be a movie about a real estate investor or somebody that does fix and flips, it would start at Home Depot. And that's where we find you at the beginning of your journey. So as you get into the building products industry, and all the things that you've done at Swidget, your journey did start at Home Depot. Can you talk about the beginnings of your career, and we'll catch up to where you are now later on in the episode?
Great. Yeah. Happy to be here, Nate. Started at Home Depot 21 and a half years ago. Great company, learned so much. Got a chance to work with a lot of different leaders from the store level all the way through the corporate structure. But I started in the stores, attended Clemson University, have a finance background, moved over to the store support center, which is their headquarters, in an accounting role. Learned out pretty quickly that it wasn't action-oriented enough for me. Moved into a finance role, which I got a chance to be a little bit more action-oriented, but still didn't get a lot of, be able to impact the numbers enough to satisfy me. And then I was just fortunate enough through some connections, got introduced to a new group that was forming called Renovation Services, where they were basically flipping houses for banks. And I thought, real estate and construction, like that sounds fun. Especially growing up, my dad was a very handy person, so I was always doing stuff around the house. And so that construction side really got to me. So got into the REO industry back in 2010. And like I said, we were doing flips for banks. So I got to learn a whole lot about foreclosure process and just REOs in general, and working with contractors. And then forward about 2 to 3 years, I got introduced with my first investor customer who would actually buy default mortgages and then try to modify the loans. Eventually people stopped paying and they would acquire the home that way, and then we do renovations for them. So that was my first dabble in it. And then quickly, within probably another year or two, the big, large REITs started to form, and got to support all those customers from when they had 1,000, 2,000 houses to where they eventually grew, and got a chance to support them from a whole lot of different angles, from services to product support and that kind of thing. Yeah. And so,
very interesting journey. And, one of the things I want to touch on in regards to your career and, all the different hats you've worn, so often we associate networking with going to a trade show or a conference, going to the trade show floor, walking up to booths, shaking hands. But for you, I imagine that looked a little different at Home Depot. Can you talk about that journey through networking, connecting with people, climbing up the ladder, finding different avenues? How important of a skill was that for you?
Yeah, I'd say for me, it's probably something I learned. Some of it might be my personality, but just I like to get to know people at a personal level and
nice.
take work out of it, but just really dive into people's lives and figure out what they enjoy and just connect. And so the store support center was set up great, where we had like a cafe downstairs. We had a Starbucks where you could meet people for coffee. And so it was constant. It was one of those things that was just really natural for me to do, that a lot of times I didn't have an agenda. It was just, I just wanted to spend some time with some people. And I think the more that you did it periodically,
yep.
it wasn't like, oh, I need to go do that. It just came naturally. It was like, oh, I need to connect with these folks. And I found out those folks that I didn't realize I was planting seeds, but those are the people that when opportunities came up, they would come to me for it. And so, so thankful for that.
I love that answer too, because sometimes networking can be seen as an objective or something you got to cross off the list, right? You got to do it. When I meet this person, when I shake their hand, I've got, call it 5-10 minutes to impress them, make them want to work with me, whatever the case may be. But it's actually on the flip side, if you can make it that long game where you're building those connections over time, over months, over years, that's when you start to see the real benefit rather than just rushing it for the sake of it's something I got to do because I'm at a trade show.
Absolutely. And I think they also can tell you, like, hey, knowing each other personally, this could be a really good fit, or, oh my gosh, I could have stepped into a dumpster fire if they didn't know me and they said, hey, here's a job I think you should do, if they didn't really know me. So I think they naturally would do some of that filtering, and it was vice versa, right?
So you have some experience in the market that Swidget is currently positioned in the SFR, REO markets. What have you observed in terms of changes since you've been in it? I mean, the list goes on, right? But are there a couple that come to mind?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, probably a few. I would say, like when I first jumped in, foreclosures were taking 5-7 years. Homes were sitting vacant for, just deteriorating, and got a chance to see those firsthand, that you walk in the door and just the stench, you'll never get it out. When the large investors were getting into this space, they were all concentrated in some key markets, and no one wanted to go to these other markets. And eventually it just took a few people to take a chance and go get some traction. And then sure enough, now those are hot markets. And so you watched the markets kind of go across the whole country for different reasons. So that was a big change. I also think I wouldn't say the quality of the renovation, but at the beginning, they wanted to do all kinds of, stuff to a house that in the long term may or may not have added as much value. So I think a lot of the investors are, and especially given just the housing shortage, I think some of the renovation needs, it may not need as much as it did before, right, because of the demand. So
yeah, there used to be that idea of let's make a house as cool as possible so anybody would want to buy it. Mm-hmm. And now it's kind of let's make the changes as specific as possible so people in this certain market will buy it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that ties hand in hand with the smart home solutions, the technology. You can't go anywhere without talking about technology, AI these days. I don't know if the camera has picked it up yet, but we have our first show and tell here on Uncontested Investing. I appreciate you bringing that along with you because I really think it can connect with our listeners, some of the investors out there, and how it can actually help them. So when you're talking about the smart home solutions that Swidget offers, what makes them unique when it pertains to investors? I guess a two-part question would be, how do they add value to a property? Can you kind of talk about that and walk us through the product that you brought today?
Yeah, so it was really hard not to bring it. So when I saw this, knowing the construction background, the real estate SFR market, I was like, this is game-changing. This is huge. So when I say modular or smart home device, people are like, what does that mean? Like, I don't really understand. Well, everyone knows what this is. This is an electrical outlet. It's a little bit different where it's got a cavity here. And so basically you can put this thing in during a rehab or a turn. And if it's unoccupied, you've got a vacant property, you can put in different inserts. And this is where all the smart technology is. So this is an example of a camera. Mm-hmm. You barely can see the lens. So it's super discreet. Gives a great view, even at an outlet size, down towards the floor. Big panoramic, has night vision. It also even has like an SD card on the back, so it can do full recordings of videos. But we have a back-end portal that connect all of our devices. We have a lot of inserts from cameras to temperature, humidity. So you think about all the data you can get from a house and what you could do with it. But this is what's really taking traction in the marketplace because of the squatting and trespass issues that we're seeing in a lot of different markets, and just be able to get eyes on properties. And so you basically install this during the turn or rehab, and then stick this in. And then when the tenant moves in, you pop it out and put the blank back in. and you can move this from property to property. So we sell them like in kits.
Okay.
So they're portable. So you really just pay per unit versus having to buy it for every property.
Very cool.
So,
Very cool. Now, I'm sure with a product like that, you've gotten a lot of customer feedback. What has that process been like for you when you start seeing reviews for a product that you work for? It's a little bit different than Home Depot. It's a massive, nationwide known company. Swidget is a little bit different. It's a specific piece of technology that you're trying to market to investors. What is that process like when you get feedback, when you get reviews, positive or negative? I'm sure that's got to be, pretty rewarding or pretty motivating.
For sure. The feedback, this industry, this is what makes it fun to stay in this industry is you get a lot of feedback and a lot of it is just because people care and you're helping to solve problems. And so we love the feedback. We've got a team that does a great job of listening to the customer, and I think we'll get into that a little bit later, just about some of the things that we can do as a company, being a lot smaller than, say, a Home Depot. And so that's been a lot of fun.
Very cool, Danny. Thank you for that display. We're going to take our first break of the episode, though. Our sponsors are going to chime in for a second. We'll be right back with the Money Making Minute with Danny Linenger of Swidget. REI Inc. is the premier monthly publication for real estate investors. Dive into a wealth of expert insights and knowledge from industry leaders and gain valuable regional market insights, ensuring you always have the best information right at your fingertips. Visit REIinc.com to elevate your real estate investment game today. Welcome back to this week's episode of Uncontested Investing. I'm joined by Danny Linenger, the Director of U.S. Operations for Swidget. I appreciate you bringing that along with you today, showing our audience exactly how it can help them. And now we're ready for another piece of advice in the form of the Money Making Minute. So this is going to be an investment strategy, an app, a skill, maybe a daily habit for you or a part of your routine, anything that you think attributes to your success that you can talk to our investors about, let them implement that into their daily lives. They can use it in 2024 and beyond, help them be successful. So let's hear it from Danny Linenger, the Money Making Minute.
I'd say the biggest thing I've learned in this industry is really not to burn bridges. So it's a really small but connected network, and so I think what I've found is, and this is where I think it's great because good news travels really fast, bad news travels even faster. So you really have to really be careful about burning bridges. I think just helping others solve problems, especially being there for folks when they might be stressed, might need help, going in and saving the day for someone. They'll never forget that. They'll never forget you. And like I said, are always wanting to share what's working for them. And so if you really spend your time helping others, you're going to find success in this market.
That was a unique perspective, Danny. Thanks for sharing that. I really like hearing that because when people think of real estate investing, the first thing that comes to their mind is properties and money. The more that I've been a host of Uncontested Investing, I've gotten to talk to people, network with people, the more you find out it's actually a people business, right? You have to build relationships that help you be more successful. You have to know who to talk to, how to talk to them, when's the best time to talk to them, right? There's a lot of communication and connection that goes along with being successful in this industry. So I think that's a really strong money-making minute there. Thank you for sharing. As we move on to you specifically, though, your role, Director of U.S. Operations, that's got a nice flashy title to it. But if we get into the details of it, what has it been, expanding Swidget's presence in the U.S.? I'm sure there's been some challenges opening a new product to a new market. What's the journey been for you since you took over?
Yeah. So for the audience here, I'm the first one in the U.S., so the rest of my team is in Canada, and the team is amazing. One of the big reasons I came over was product and people. Those are two huge things for me. So we've been working diligently to get our product here. So everything to this date has been coming out of Canada, and we know that the business is here in the U.S., and so working to get that product here. I guess I can say this on air, but we're also getting our product on the Home Depot platform probably in the next month or so. has been working through that, and that's so that the contractors on there, the investors of all sizes, will have access to our products. So that's going to be critical. And so just figuring out how do we take those relationships that we have up in Canada and bring them down here. And we want to do it smart because the team has worked so hard to get the company to where it's at, and we don't want to lose that. And so we want to do it the right way. So we're really exploring different options there, but we're really excited about the future here in the U.S.
Nice. So is there any difference? I know you're kind of in the tech sector a little bit. It's kind of a niche market. Are there any strategies that you're focusing on when it comes to networking? Is there a little different aspect involved when it comes to the product that you have? Because I know it's like kind of like a sales pitch, but you also have to be that connection, that communication that we've been talking about.
Yeah, I would say for us, it's a little bit different, especially back to my previous role. Some of the folks that might have need for our product within the customers, so you could have same customer but different segments of it. So it might be new relationships that their job is to handle X problem, right? And so learning those. But again, if you've built relationships with other folks, they're happy to make those introductions to the right people. But within the smart home, I'm learning a lot because that is a new world for me.
Yeah. So when we talk about looking a little bit into the future, when it comes to like renovation, materials management, is there anything that you're seeing that's become a trend that people are gravitating towards that's really expanding or becoming popular?
Yeah, I mean, selfishly, I would say, I really, the successes that we're starting to see with our product, I think it's going to be game changing because it's such a unique thing that fits this market so well, that I see, hey, these things are getting installed with every scope of work from the renovation side. And then it's really, because we're not just a security monitoring company, right? It's more of an asset protection or value. So you think of all the things down the road that we can help solve with it. I think it'll give a different perspective and different data points that aren't there today.
No, you have a very helpful product. There's no two ways about it. But, there's always a double-edged sword when it comes to AI and technology. Has there been any challenges that you didn't foresee that have popped up that you've had to manage or handle? What has that balance kind of been like, right? Because it's somewhat of a Pandora's box when you're talking about technology and all the things it can do for us, but you've got to be extremely careful on the back end. Yeah,
no, for sure. From an AI perspective, I'm dealing with that myself. We use AI for person or human detection on our cameras. So no one wants to get notifications for leaves or trees blowing in the wind. They want people. When people aren't there, they want those. And so we're using it, and so far it's been great. It's been working great. But I still am having trouble trusting. I think trust is what I think of when I think of AI from a customer standpoint, because it's new. You got to do your background on it and make sure that it's working well. So I find myself, checking the clips. Did it miss something? Because it's just, it can't be that good, right? So I think everyone's probably dealing with that in different capacities, and I think some of it is just trust and making sure you got the right partners down.
Oh, that makes sense. So as of right now, as it stands, it's something that you can put into an outlet, helps give people that peace of mind for their investment property when it's vacant. Do you see smart home technology evolving in the investment space? Is this kind of just a product that's like new to the market and that can take over, or is there an evolution, anything that you've even thought of yourself that you think you can take this to the next level?
Yeah, and we'll get into it in another segment, but I'll say I think the data that you can get using smart home, I think that's where you're going to see smart home take off, not with just our product, but other things, right? Like everyone wants insights and data that's going on in a house, because then you can start to be more proactive and be able to predict things that are going to happen or not happen, and then you're going to be able to take action versus reactive is expensive, right? And so so I think that's where it's got to be tied to a problem. I think that's where it'll start to take shape.
Interesting. All right, good. We'll save the rest of that for later. I like that little teaser there. And we're going to take another break here. for an ad read, and then we'll be right back with the Deal Maker with Danny Linenger. Thank you. At RCN Capital, we know that time is money. With our competitive rates and quick turnaround time, you can receive funding in as little as 10 days. We offer flexible payment plans to relieve the pressure of the repayment process. Our team is experienced in making sure that you choose a loan that will suit you best. So get on the phone with a loan officer today by emailing info@rcncapital.com or clicking the link in our bio. We're back with Danny Linenger from Swidget. And Danny, it is time for Deal Maker, our second and final segment of the show, where we get to talk to the audience about what makes a deal successful and what can cause it to break down. Investors all the time are trying to find creative solutions, get their deal across the finish line, close a loan, whatever the case may be. But for you, we're going to offer your expertise as it pertains to technology, data. So for the Deal Maker, let's hear it.
One thing that a wise leader of mine a number of years ago said, don't be a solution looking for a problem, whereas go find the problem and design a solution around it. And I'd say I've seen that over the years, over and over again, no matter what it is. It could be in the construction side, rehab side, see it on the deal side as well. But I think that's really hit home, and I think that's why our company is so focused on this market, because we know there's problems out there that need to be solved, and so we're doubling down on that piece of it.
So I'm sure in your time at Swidget, you've solved more than a few problems. What has been the most rewarding part? I know you're kind of a groundbreaking employee, right? You're the first in the United States. You're getting the company into Home Depot. If you can think back, what's been the most rewarding thing for you?
Yeah, I think the thing for me, one, the people that I get a chance to work with every day, way smarter than me. They just are incredible. And luckily I got a chance to meet a few of them before I stepped into role. And so I would say I feel even better than I did when I first started, because they've been incredible. Coming from a big company to a smaller company, the ability to actually listen to a customer, understand the problem, develop a solution, build a solution, implement a solution, all within a matter of weeks or months, is I still can't get over that. It's crazy how fast things can happen, and that's just been so rewarding, because you're seeing that satisfaction at the end, solving those problems and starting to get those successes. So that's what's really been rewarding.
Awesome. And you've risen to a leadership position within Swidget. So if there's any advice that maybe you could give to your younger self, or if there's aspiring leaders like you that want to get into the smart home tech industry or the real estate investment space, is there any one piece of advice that maybe you heard from a mentor or that you've picked up on? I know we kind of talked about the problem versus solution, but is there anything that you can think of that comes to mind of like, this is the best case scenario for people that want to be leaders in this space?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it goes back to the networking and just getting to know, but I think it's really hard to get anything done if you can't get along with your coworkers or customers. And so I think learning how to work as a team, and we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and so leveraging each other's strengths and getting the power of more than just yourself is I think you're not alone, and no one's ever alone. So how do you best utilize other vendors or other companies or other groups within your organization? I think that's where it's not fun to be by yourself anyway. So it's great to be around people. So I would stick with that.
Great answer, because I, at least once an episode, find myself trying to explain to an investor just how important that is when it comes to community and networking. It can be a little bit misleading that people have to kind of do this by themselves, right, when they first get into it. But the more that they work with people, the more deals that they close, they start to realize, whether it's a mentor, a contractor, an appraiser, somebody that works at the lender that they're using to close the deal and get the funds from, the more people you know, the farther you can go and the more success you can have in this industry. So I think that's a perfect spot to kind of encapsulate, advice that you could give to somebody that wants to achieve that same success you have. The other thing I like mentioning and wrapping up the episode with is a person's passion project. What helps them decompress, recharge? Again, real estate investing can be a 24/7, 365 industry if you let it be. You always got to answer the email or pick up a call. Is there anything that you do in your personal life, whether it's, charitables, foundation work, whether it's family time? What's that thing that you can kind of always go back to that helps you recharge and be a better employee at Swidget?
Yeah, so I'd say there's two things. On the professional side, I've just always found it naturally. If I've worked with you, maybe they were a team member of mine back in the day, just staying in touch with people and finding time to go have lunch, go get out of the office, go meet them where they are. I think that's been big for people that maybe have worked for me. But then on the same side, some of my leaders in the past, I think it's always just someone you can run things by. You can say, hey, is this idea that I have crazy? Like, try to poke holes in it, and you run things by themselves. I think those are two things that I've always felt better after I left those things, that saying, hey, I got to make sure I set up a check-in 6 months or however long to make sure I don't leave that, because those people, you have no idea how much impact you're having on them, and likewise, so I think that on the personal side, I think that's been, or on the professional side, that's been big for me. Personally, I've got a number of just superstar family members and friends that have started organizations that we help support and just like to be involved. And again, from a small part, just awesome people in general that we help.
Want more episodes like the one you just watched? Be sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. At Uncontested Investing, we're committed to bringing you the best content, and we'd love your input on the stories and insights that you want to see next. The last thing I want you to be able to talk about is how people can find out more about you, more about the product that Swidget has in place, because I'm sure there's a lot of investors that are watching this interview and they got to find your contact information. They got to figure out a way to get that camera into their next investment property to have that peace of mind. So is there any way that people can reach you easily?
Yeah. So first off, we're on LinkedIn. Our company's on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. I've always been someone that has no problem sharing my phone number. It's out there. Please give it a ring. I think something I've learned over the years is, it says a lot picking up the phone, right? Sometimes I'm the one that's making phone calls or texting. And so don't feel like you're a headache. Give me a call. Just here to help.
Sauce. Love that open door policy. So there you have it, listeners of Uncontested Investing. Danny Linenger of Swidget. You guys are changing the game in the smart home technology space when it comes to investment property financing and that peace of mind. It's next level. I appreciate you stopping by, bringing the product. So for our listeners out there, on behalf of myself, Nate Zielinski, and Danny Linenger, we'll see you all in the next one. Thanks, Danny.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Uncontested Investing. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow REI Inc. magazine on LinkedIn and Facebook, and RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time.